Hello everyone, welcome to another video on this channel. In this video, I'll be looking at a game between Magnus Carlsen and Anish Giri played back in 2016 in the Norway Blitz tournament. The link to the stream of the Norway Blitz tournament as well as this game will be in the description below. This game, I really like this game because it showed an effective way to combat the Berlin defense, which is considered to be one of the most solid openings for black against 1e4. And and it was incredible that this game was played in 3+2 time control, as there were many good moves played by both sides, and their um, accuracy was very high according to the engine. So let's look at the game. Anish Giri opened with e4, and then which is best by test, as Bobby Fischer says. e5, the most solid way to reply. Knight f3, attacking the pawn on e5. Knight c6, defending the pawn on e5. Now bishop e5, this is the Spanish game. White puts pressure on this knight, and indirectly puts pressure on this pawn. And it's one of the oldest openings in chess, and one of the most popular openings in chess history. And now Magnus Carlsen plays knight f6, which is known as the Berlin defense, and it's the second most popular move in this position. And it's the most popular move is a6, and then the bishop usually retreats to a4. Then you play knight f6. The difference is now you can play b5 if you need to later on. But Magnus Carlsen plays knight f6 directly, and this puts pressure on the e pawn, and it usually leads to black grabbing the bishop pair, which is one of the reasons why it's so popular. But usually black will have to accept double pawns, which is the compensation white gets for giving up the bishop pair. So Anish Giri played d3, defending this pawn on e4, and playing knight c3 here, which is another move, would transpose back into a 4-knight Spanish, which is considered to be Josh, and black is usually equal there. So Anish Giri plays d3. The main line, in fact, is castling here, and white lets black take b pawn, but he will regain it later with d4. Rook e1 is also a move in this position if you want to avoid the Berlin endgame. After d4, knight d6, attacking the bishop. If e takes d4, you get pinned by rook e1. Then d5, defending the knight, and knight takes d4. And now you are down a pawn, but there's pressure all over the board, and you will win your material back. Thus, after knight d6, which is considered to be the best move, black attacks the bishop. White usually takes, black takes, white takes the e-pawn, black brings his knight to f5, and then they trade, both sides trade queens, and this is considered the Berlin endgame, where, as I said, black gets the bishop pair, but has to give up two pawns, give up a good pawn structure, and has to accept double pawns. However, the Berlin endgame is considered to be drawish again, and there's good chances for black to win. And if you want to know more about it, check out the games of Vladimir Kramnik. So, who used the Berlin defense to beat Garry Kasparov in his World Championship match. So Anish Giri plays d3 instead. Bishop c5, but simply develops a piece. Bishop takes c6. When you're down in development, you usually should trade pieces, and this also gives double pawns. And since the position is closed, the bishop pair does not mean as much as it would in the regular Berlin endgame, which we saw more open. After d takes e6, knight b d2, white develops another piece. Bishop e6, white castles. Black goes knight d7, trying to reroute the knight to a better square and maybe play f6 to solidify a center and defend his pawn. knight b3, opening the door for his bishop, and attacking this one right here. Bishop b6, and then knight g5. This forces black to give up the bishop here. Bishop takes b3, a takes b3, queen e7, and now Magnus Carlsen wants to prepare queenside castling, but that eventually led to his downfall. Anish Giri played bishop d2, and Magnus Carlsen castled queenside. b4, as you can see, Anish Giri isn't wasting any time, and immediately starts going for the attack. King b8, this is a common move, just moving your king one square over when you castle long to protect your queenside pawns better, especially since the knight on c6 is missing and instead you have a pawn there. The knight on c6 usually defends the pawn on a7, and this can prove to be a weakness later on. c4, further continuing the attack. Bishop d4, and Magnus tries putting pressure on these pawns, and he has to avoid his bishop getting trapped here. But bishop d4 ended up being an inaccuracy, and because the bishop can get kicked around with knight f3, which is what was played in the game, and instead the computer suggests f6, counterattacking this knight. After it maybe retreats to f3, then you just go a6, clearing the space for your bishop. However, when you back here, a6 right away, it's not a you just get a cramped position of sorts, especially since this knight does not have to go back to f3 yet. So, Magnus didn't see that and instead played bishop d4 right away. Knight f3, white comes back to attack the bishop. Knight f8. If bishop takes b2, it would have made it even worse. Rook a2, bishop d4, and then b5. The attack just continues, and black is under serious pressure. But knight f8 wasn't the best move by any means either. The computer likes knight b6, just further protecting the queen side here. Instead, knight f8 is just extremely passive. Magnus probably wants to reroute his knight to a better square so he can begin his attack, but that plan takes time he doesn't have. So queen a4, and now, as you can see that Anish Giri is already threatening to take on a7, and then follow it up with mate. And this is where you wish you still had that c6 knight, which would defend this pawn very effectively. a6, which is the only good move. b5, and now Anish Giri tries to break through. Black cannot take with the a pawn due to queen a8 checkmate, for example here. Checkmate. And there's nothing black can do. So c takes b5 instead. C takes b5, and now the pressure is building up on the a pawn. And now queen d7, pinning the pawn to the queen. Because Magnus was trying to trade queens here, when you're getting attacked, you should always attempt to trade queens, as the queen is usually the most powerful attacker. Bishop takes a6, here takes anyway, queen takes a4, rook takes a4, and knight e6. If b takes a6, rook takes a6, and your king is extremely exposed, and this rook is coming in later. This knight will probably come in somehow, and this bishop is free to come in as well. So taking the pawn back would have been a blunder. That's why knight e6 was played. Giri snaps up another pawn. Knight c5. Black attacks the white rook. And rook a3. White simply steps it back. Bishop takes b2. And this was a very greedy move, trying to get another pawn. But this cost Carlsen the game. Rook a2, attacking the bishop. And remember that this pawn can be very dangerous if it's protected. Right now, since it's not protected, rook a8 checkmate does not work. But if it was, rook a8 checkmate would be a move. So knight takes d3. For example, if your bishop just moved back here after after a move like rook b1, you'd be in you'd have a huge attack to deal with, and the white has a huge advantage here. So knight takes d3. Black tries desperately to protect it, but even this move does not work out in the end. Rook b1 comes anyway, and white puts more pressure on the bishop. Black moves it, as I said. Rook a check is checkmate. And after playing c5, Magnus Carlsen resigned. Um, and Anish Giri won the game. Magnus Carlsen did win and did end up winning the tournament, but I think this was a really nice game. And if you need a weapon against the Berlin defense and don't want to go into the Berlin endgame every time, I think this is a good choice. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Um, I hope you enjoyed that video, and please subscribe and comment below for for which game you want to see next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.